The official sports voice of the Upstate fan. CBS Sports Radio. Always live on the free Odyssey app. You're offside.
This is Offsides with Marc Ryan.
Blunt, open, honest sports talk.
Do it for a feeling of satisfaction that you get right in here.
That's what it means to be an offsider. Are you bold enough for truth? The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Then this show is for you. Offsides with Marc Ryan.
This is
The Fan.
Upstate.
What's good, everybody? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Marc Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. Hey, do you have Wi-Fi? Because I feel we have a connection. Rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Can I get an amen? Here's how you guys can take part. You can give us a ring at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. The text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. Here's what's coming up on the show today. We're going to have our March Madness diary continuing with the leading scorer of the Furman Paladins, Mike Bothwell, joins us 39 minutes from right now. He has some analytics and some stats on the ACC tournament, and he'll tell you the exact percentage chance that Clemson wins it. Austin Marc joins us at 5:20 p.m. this afternoon. Also on the show today, why this era for the Gamecock should be viewed as nothing but a success, our own ranking of college football head coaches, an acceptable ascension curve for the Carolina Panthers. An NBA player goes off in a way that you've never heard before, and my recommendation on the best bets coming your way the rest of the sports calendar year. That and so much more coming your way between the hours of 3 and 7 p.m. today. Folks, there's a beauty that is going on right now in sports. There is a soap opera that is existing here. And that is like one of the most important things, and I'll share with you one of the things that Angela always says about me, okay? Now, she's a sweetheart. I don't know how I got Angela. She's amazing. But she says to me all the time, she goes, I can't believe, Marc, that I got you. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, just your integrity. And I said, like, what do you mean? And she says, well, you're honest with me and you do what you say you're going to do. And if any of you have been in the dating game anytime in the last 5 or 10 years, you know that is one thing that doesn't happen to anybody. Nobody does what they say they're going to do. Meet you here for coffee at 3, they're there at 4:30. You know, you want to go to dinner on Friday, sure. Friday at the last minute, they cancel. Or they just don't show. So she says to me, like, I don't know, like I like to think I'm an okay dude, but I'm certainly a bit rough around the edges. I have my positive points. I have the negative points. Have my negative points. If you don't believe me, just ask Shane Beamer, right? But to her, she really values the fact that I'm honest with her and I do what I say I'm going to do. I try to make that a 100% thing. Like if I say it's going to happen, it happens, right? Well, the beauty of this tournament, this ACC tournament for Clemson fans, is that you get to do that with your athletic director. You get to see if he would meet my wife's definition of integrity. Does he do what he says he's going to do? Right? Will he do it? And here's what I mean by that. Graham Neff said in the offseason that Clemson needed to make the tournament this year. He's not throwing out fiery barbs. He doesn't work in this medium, right? Like in this medium, in order to have optimal success in my opinion, and this is why it's a natural fit for me, your show has to have some level of conflict. There has to be some natural conflict there. I'm not saying it has to be Skip Bayless or a debate show, but there has to be, I'm hitting my fist here a little bit. There has to be a little bit of that. There's got to be a little bit of provocativity. There's got to be a little bit of controversy, conflict, controversy, provocative ways. If you want to achieve optimal success in this business, you've got to have that. If you don't want to achieve optimal success in this business, maybe you don't, right? But it's a prerequisite. I don't expect Graham Neff to do the same thing that I do, but he's sending the same message. We need to make the tournament this year. He said that in the offseason, which means he said this actually last year. And now you are going to have the golden opportunity to see if Graham Neff does what he says he's going to do. If Clemson does not win the ACC tournament, I believe, my friends, that this ACC tournament is a win-win for Clemson fans. You are going to have the answer to the question, how committed is our school to men's basketball? How committed is our school? There are three possible outcomes. Number one, you win the whole thing, you're in, and Brad Brownell keeps his job. Number two, well, this is part of number one. Maybe they make the ACC tournament final and lose, and maybe that's good enough to get them in the tournament. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to have to win this thing, all right? But it's possible, right? Maybe if Clemson makes the ACC tournament final, they'd have a 1 in 4 chance of getting in, right? So maybe that would be the case. Number two, lose, and Brad Brownell comes back, which, if I'm a Clemson basketball fan, would make me buy a Duke basketball jersey, Diesel. Like, if they lose and Brad Brownell comes back, I am doing what many Clemson fans have done. I am out. I am looking for another team, and I'm probably picking Furman. Number three, the option is you lose and you have a new regime. Okay, now, if you listen to this show, you know that I feel like Brad Brownell has had 9 lives. I have nothing against Brad Brownell personally. Far more important than who he is as a basketball coach is who he is as a person. And by all accounts, he is a wonderful human being and a Clemson man. But this is not a personal issue. This is a production issue. You, the Clemson basketball fan, have told me the expectation for your program is make the tournament more years than not. You, the South Carolina basketball fan, the Gamecocks, have told me the expectation for your program is to make the tournament more years than not. Brad Brownell has done it 3 times in 13 years. He'd have to make the tournament 6 years in a row to make the tournament more times than not and meet your expectation, right? So for me, moving on from Brad Brownell is something I already would have done, right? That already would have happened. But it hasn't. And he's been given chance after chance after chance and time after time after time. And those employers who don't really make you perform and they still let you work there, gosh, those are great people to work for, right?
But what about we can't do any better? Who's going to want us? We're just little old Clemson. That's the problem with the little old Clemson thing is you use it selectively, Clemson fans. You use the little old Clemson as if it's a positive thing in football. Oh, small atmosphere, family vibe, much tighter-knit community than what you're going to get at a UCLA or something like that. But then you turn it around and say, oh, we're just little old Clemson and nobody's going to want us when it comes to basketball. So which is it? You got to pick one. You got to be consistent. You got to expect greatness or not. And that's what's scary to me is if there's a large contingent of this Clemson fan base that is willing to accept mediocrity in basketball, How many of them are going to accept if a slow regression to the mean happens in football? I'm talking like, 2 years in a row, you might win the same number of games. And then the next year you win one fewer. And you hover right there for a couple of years. And then you win one fewer. And you hover right there for a couple of years, which could happen. So are you going to be willing to accept that slow backslide if Dabo Swinney stays in charge? Because that's the guy that Clemson fans point to. Oh, well, in Dabo, I trust. I believe that he'll get it right. I believe that he'll fix this and he knows what he's doing.
Where do you guys come out, Gamecock fans and Clemson fans? I want to hear from you. Okay. Where do you come out on Brad Brownell's employment? Let us know, 71307 on the text line. Do you agree with Graham Neff? If he makes the tournament, he stays. If he doesn't, he goes. Are you like me? I'm moving on from Brad Brownell no matter what happens, right? Or do you have some sort of different answer to the equation, right? Mark, I'm staying on with Brad Brownell, whether he makes the tournament or not. What is your take on that situation? Diesel, to your point, 30 minutes ago, a gentleman by the name of Edmund Hoffman III tweeted me the following. He said, I'm not a Clemson fan, but Brad Brownell is a quality coach. I just don't know what Clemson fans expect year in and year out from basketball. There'll never be a team that makes the tournament 8 out of every 10 years because of Tobacco Road. Well, Edmund, I would never advise anybody to stay in a relationship that's making them unhappy because they don't feel like they can get anybody better. You establish what your standards are. And if your relationship, romantic or otherwise, is not meeting that standard, you end that relationship and you stay single until you find one that does, right? The same holds true with coaching. You establish what your standards are. And number one, Edmund, I don't believe what you're saying to be true at all. Like the success of North Carolina doesn't mean Clemson can't be successful. The success of Duke doesn't mean Clemson can't be successful. You could say the same thing about Duke. Well, Duke can never expect to make the tournament 8 times in 10 years because of Tobacco Road, because of North Carolina, because of Duke, because of Cameron Indoor Stadium. North Carolina can't expect to make it, right? Every 8 out of every 10 years. But they do. It's all about finding the right head coach and putting him in position to succeed, right? Never do this thing where it's like, who else are we going to get? And then if the next coach doesn't meet your standard, move on from him. You've established what the standard is, right? There is absolutely zero reason why my alma mater, Florida, should have a higher basketball standard than Clemson. Yeah, I know Florida's made Final Fours. Florida's won national championships, but that's because they had the right coach. The same thing can happen for you. When you have the right coach, Florida didn't have basketball history. Billy Donovan made basketball history, right? So now the expectation at Florida is to make the tournament every year. When the Gators don't make the tournament, it's a down year. And
then fans start putting pressure on the athletic director to make decisions.
God forbid you have expectations for your school. God forbid you have expectations for your school. Where do you guys come out on our verdict on Brad Brownell? Diesel, I'm moving on either way.
Yes.
Okay? Some Clemson fans are far too nice. They're not going to move on either way. Win or lose, they're going to keep Brad Brownell. I think Graham Neff is in an either-or situation. If Brad Brownell makes the tournament, he stays. If he doesn't, he goes. That's what he's told us. What is Diesel doing at the helm, at the controls?
Oh, I'm absolutely moving on from Brad Brownell. He's had, 13 seasons at Clemson? If he hasn't been able to put consistent seasons together back-to-back to this point, how crazy is it that he's been able to have the best season in Clemson history? And I'm using that loosely because I don't know the entirety of Clemson basketball history, but one of the best seasons in the season where his job is absolutely on the line. Like he needs to coach like this every season. This should be an average down season for Clemson. Instead, it's the best season you've had in generations. And you're right, it's because fans don't have any expectations. The athletic director doesn't really put any expectations on the program, doesn't put any pressure on Brad Brownell to deliver. So I have to move on. Again, there are coaches that can take you from a 3 to a 5. And I think that's pretty much what Brad Brownell has done. He's taken Clemson basketball from a 3 to a 5. You got to find that guy that can take you from a 5 to a 7. And that's what every program in America is looking for. And not to ruffle any feathers up in TR, but the answer is 40 minutes up the road from you, Clemson. What are you doing? 40 minutes up the road.
Texter says Brad Brownell should have been gone 3 years ago, but hey, y'all want to keep him? Go on with your bad self and be stuck in mediocre. Gamecocks will see you in the rear view.
South Carolina fans would love Clemson to keep Brad Brownell as long as you're willing to keep him.
On Twitter, our buddy Brandon Gibson, P1 listener of the show, says, I would have removed Brownell 5 years ago. The only way I keep him now is if he makes the Sweet 16. Folks, the projections say that Clemson needs to win this tournament to get in, right? They need to win 3 games. They need to beat North Carolina State. They're a 1-point favorite to do that. 1 point. By the way, the Pick Center on ESPN actually has the Wolfpack as a slight favorite. 57% chance the Wolfpack win, say the Pick Center. But then when they do the simulation, it's 74-73 Clemson. Clemson is favored by a single point in this game. So Clemson will need to beat North Carolina State, whom they beat by 14 points in the regular season. They would then need to beat the winner of North Carolina and Virginia in the semifinal, and likely the winner of Duke and Miami in the final. It's not out of the realm of possibility. You know, Duke's a heavy favorite because everybody bets Duke, but Duke is anything but unbeatable this year, right? Very, very beatable. Duke is 23-8. Clemson's 22-9. What do you mean Clemson can't beat Duke? Give me a break. This is your time. This is your year. Brad Brownell, this is your chance. This is your opportunity. And if you don't get it, if Clemson doesn't get in, and Graham Neff does not move on from Brad Brownell, then simply put, he's not meeting my wife's definition of integrity. Doing what you say you're going to do.
Well, to quote the wise janitor in the movie Rudy, if you haven't done that by now, it ain't gonna never happen.
Texter says the right coach will attract the right players to win consistently. We definitely should need to move on from Brad Brownell.
By the way, you need to call and email your athletic director and say these things. Saying them to us is great.
We appreciate it.
It's great.
Yeah.
But you also need to send these messages to your athletic director. And hey, if you're a South Carolina fan, maybe you troll Clemson and you email him and say that Brad Brownell's doing a great job and that you would love to keep him.
So Texter says we definitely need to move on. My expectations is we should be in the tournaments every year. So says Dave Tyner. Yeah, like don't listen to these people who put limitations on you. You're Clemson. Because it's Tobacco Road, you can't expect to be in the tournament every year.
Tobacco Road is as weak as it's ever going to be right now. Right now, it's as weak as it's ever going to be. This is your chance. Duke's going to take some time to get back to Coach K levels. North Carolina is going to take some time to get back to Roy Williams levels. If you're going to make strides in the ACC, it has to be right now. You cannot give them time to regroup, because their fans have the expectations of winning.
That's it. All right. Up next, on the Gamecock side of things, this particular thing that happened in this college basketball season simply has to be viewed as a success. I'll tell you what that is and why when Offsides continues right after this. We are the Fan Upstate.
Offsiders wanted.
Call 844-FAN-PHONE.
That's 844-326-3663.
This is Offsides with Marc Ryan on The Fan.
Upstate.
Now CBS Sports Radio.
Now CBS.
So the Gamecocks basketball season has mercifully come to an end. The Gamecocks lost yesterday to Ole Miss 67-61 in the first round of the SEC tournament. And the season comes to an end with the Gamecocks having a record of 11 wins and 21 losses. A forgettable year, but one that projected to be honestly worse than it was. South Carolina was not the last place team in the SEC. Not the last place team in the SEC. 14 teams in the SEC. They were in 12th place. Ole Miss was worse. LSU was worse. Look, you're never going to say that a 4-14 record is a good season. But I described the Gamecock basketball team heading into the year as G.G. Jackson and four guys from the Y. Okay? So honestly, towards the end of the year, they kind of played respectable basketball to me. They won some games. They gave some teams a real tussle. And in so doing, the one player who is likely to be an NBA lottery pick, birthplace Columbia, South Carolina, initially committed to North Carolina, then flipped to South Carolina. More on that in a minute. G.G. Jackson II, Gregory Jackson II, his freshman season comes to an end. It's very likely to be his only season in college. I'll go ahead and say it. It is his last season in college, even though he has not yet declared. G.G. Jackson finished the year as the Gamecocks' leading scorer. 15.4 points per game was that number. He finished the year as the second leading rebounder on the team. Josh Gray averaged 6.3, G.G. Jackson 5.9. He was tied for the team league in blocks at 0.8 per game. And he had a really bad field goal percentage, 38% from the floor. Okay, that's what he shot from the field, 38%. 15 points a game is okay. Under 6 rebounds a game for a guy who's 6'9" is pretty lame, actually, as is 0.8 blocks. He shot a few threes. He made 32% of those. He's trying to be, a big 3 or a stretch 4 at the NBA level. And he's got a long ways to go. He's got a long ways to go on attitude. He's got a long way to go in rebounds, block shots, and production. Meechie Johnson on the Gamecock front has announced that he will be back next year for South Carolina. That's very helpful. I'm telling you, G.G. Jackson is gone. But my overarching point is that this tenure, G.G. Jackson's tenure at South Carolina, widening the lens, has been really, really good for the Gamecock program. Really good. All right. Number one, Lamont Paris smacked G.G. Jackson around figuratively a bit, right? When he acted up. And he put him on the bench. And you're not going to be bigger than the team. And you're going to post videos about us in the locker room while complaining about your playing time and the team. You're going to ride the bench. I don't care who you are. That's great for the program. Number two, a 5-star selected you. That makes you electable to other 4- and 5-star players. You remember like when Barack Obama won the presidency? And I know like to many of you in this era, that in this area, that's not a pleasant memory, but you can follow along with the story, okay? The biggest hurdle that Barack Obama had to overcome was convincing people that he actually could win it. The word is electable. I am electable. And people had to believe it, right? Because there was this feeling that there was no way he was ever going to beat Hillary Clinton. So he had to first convince people that he was electable. And then once he did, it snowballed in his favor. Billy Donovan credits Mike Miller for Florida's success, the national championships. He says, man, if we hadn't gotten that first 5-star commitment, I'm not sure any of this happens. Gregory Jackson, G.G. Jackson II, did that for Lamont Paris. He made Columbia, South Carolina a place that, oh, okay, I'm a 4 or 5-star player. Why not? I get to play in the SEC. The sales pitch from Lamont Paris is really easy for me to figure out, right? It's quite simple. Hey, why should I go to you guys over North Carolina? Why should I go play with you over Florida? Well, because they've already won it there. Here you can forge your own path, build your own identity. It is infinitely more special to do something for the first time in a place that it's never been done, as opposed to doing it where it's expected. That's a whole different level of pressure, right? Come here, build a legacy, build a name for yourself, make history. You will always be remembered and never forgotten. That's what you have a chance to do. And I'll tell you what, man, I still view this whole thing, and I understand you guys are saying, if you're a Gamecock fan, man, what do we have to show for the G.G. Jackson era? A lot. He chose you. Others may choose you. Your coach handled his hissy fits the right way. And I think this is going to be a net positive for the Gamecocks. Monitor Gamecock basketball recruiting. You know, I think what you're going to see is that you are in it for more 4 and 5 stars than you thought possible. That's my feeling outside looking in. Let's see here. Let's check on the text line. Texter says, hey, email that athletic director. I've emailed Ray Tanner several times. On the recommendation from Mr. Marc Ryan. Great advice, buddy. Yeah, email your AD. Absolutely do that.
That was my advice.
Oh, was it your advice? Email your AD, Diesel says.
I said you control, if you're a South Carolina fan, you control Clemson by emailing your support. That happened with the mythical Grady Davis, a supposed UNC Charlotte alum who was really proud of the job that their first college football coach was doing. He was not doing well. But he emailed the athletic department and said, wow, this guy's really doing great. He's running the program the right way. He's graduating players. I love him. You should absolutely keep him. And they kept him for 2 more seasons. And they ended up going something like 2-20 in the next 2 seasons in football.
Ooh.
They trolled the athletic department into keeping him because they wanted one person to tell him that they thought he was the right coach. They got that guy, and then they spread that everywhere to the point that everybody wanted to keep him.
Texter says, at Clemson, that Gamecock record of 11-21 would warrant an extension. This is what you guys want to move away from, that kind of criticism. It does seem like Dan Radakovich left as AD. Since he left, things haven't quite been the same. That's certainly the feeling at Florida, where Scott Strickland has not at all done the job that Jeremy Foley did before him. But Graham Neff is just getting started. Texter says, I see Coach Paris, Lamont Paris, hitting the transfer portal hard this offseason, and they'll be improved next season. I think he's going to be a good coach for Carolina. Spur Daddy, I agree. I like him. I like the pedigree. I like what he did at Chattanooga. I think it's going to take time. You know, I think a very good goal for that program next year is to make the NIT. And look, we poke fun, right? We call the NIT the not in tournament, right? That's what we call it. But given where you've been, G.G. Jackson and 4 guys from the Y, you make the NIT next year. That means you finished with a winning record. That means you've shown a significant jump forward. And then you set a goal for year 3 of making the NCAA tournament. I think those are realistic goals and attainable goals, and I am a Lamont Paris believer. Texter says, I watched the game last night, Marc Ryan, and G.G. Jackson is the only player who is any good whatsoever on the Gamecocks basketball team. G.G. had a good game yesterday. He did. Good game, 22 points is what he put together. And he had a good game. Michi Johnson is a decent player. You know, the whole 4 guys from the Y comment is a little tongue-in-cheek, right? Little facetious. But you got to find other ballers around him. Who is the next G.G. Jackson? And then you have this funny realization, folks, on college basketball, rather. You tell me if you agree. Are you almost better as a head coach recruiting 3-star players that won't leave? Because when those players get to be 21, 22, they can beat the 5-star G.G. Jacksons of the world.
If you got one hell of a system, you absolutely can win with 3-star talent and maybe one 4-star, maybe one 5-star guy that comes along and just adds that. It's like the steak and the sizzle. Your 3-star guys that you can work into a great system that work well together, those are your steak. And you need one guy like G.G. Jackson to come along each year. That's your sizzle.
I'll tell you what I do, Diesel. I would have a frenetic pace. I would be pressing everywhere. I'd have a 10-man rotation. And then in the 10-man rotation, I'm totally cool if 8 of those 10 guys are 3-star players. If I got 1 4-star, 1 5-star, even if they up and leave, I'm going to try to replace them every year. But I need that like upper level potential. And then I can have my 8 3-star guys. And let's build the team around that. Who knows? Maybe a couple of those 3-star guys play like 4-star guys, but the one and done thing, man, doesn't work. Like, look at what's going on at Kentucky. Look at what's going on at the places that make that a regular thing. You can't build anything that way, man. Coming up next, speaking about building, our March Madness diary. Let me tell you what we're doing here. Mike Bothwell is the leading scorer on the Furman Paladins men's basketball team. He's going to be joining us every other day leading up to and through March Madness with a diary of sorts, a journal of the experience. Joined us Tuesday for the first time, joins us today for the second time. And that, my friends, is next. Here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere, it's Offsides. Marc, Ryan, and Diesel. And we are the Fan Upstate. Offsides, Marc, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. They're dancing, ladies and gentlemen, and we thought it would be cool to, and the other cool thing is, I'm not sure if I shared this before, Mike Bothwell has sports media aspirations. I think he's got a professional basketball career ahead of him, but I also think he could have a sports media career ahead of him, and as a result of that, and we thought it would be something you guys enjoy. We thought we'd bring you behind the scenes on the March Madness experience with a March Madness diary or journal of sorts with Mike Bothwell going dancing for the first time. Mike, how is your actual dancing ability, man? Do you got moves? So do I, Mike, but everybody says that's a white boy when I start busting out,
Mike, are you classic dance moves? Are you all the newest stuff? Okay.
There you go. Well, maybe we'll have a chance to see you bust out some of those moves in the coming days and weeks ahead. Mike, do you have a dream matchup that you thought about? Like, man, if you could hand pick an opponent that you've always dreamed about playing, Mike, do you have a team that comes to mind?
Awards. It would be cool to go against one of those personally for me. But, Jalen will probably say something about, one of the top bigs in the nation. So it really doesn't matter.
Mike, you said Wednesday when we had you on or Tuesday when we had you on, that you were really looking forward to changing the mentality from being the hunted to the hunter. What words has your coach, Bob Ritchie, who we're going to have on the show later this afternoon, had for you and the team to reinforce that? Or is he Mr. Even Keel, Mr. Status Quo, let's not change a thing?
It's funny you say that because we talked today. We had a meeting before we had a slight practice today, and he kind of erased that narrative of hunter and hunted. He said, we don't need to change a thing, honestly. He said the pressure was on us these past couple weeks, and we've been playing just fine, so why change our mentality? And I feel like he'll probably say the same thing to you guys. He doesn't want to go in there thinking that we're the underdog. Like, he wants to go in with expectations to win. And I kind of agree with him. I think the team is going to take that attitude in there, like not going in there just seeing if we can sneak up on anybody. We want to go in there expecting a great result. That's been working for us lately. So I agree with him. Why change our approach now? We might as well do what's been working.
What's really cool is not only are we on the air right now, but we're also on our YouTube channel. Diesel and I have been working on that together, and you guys can watch us on YouTube right now, the Fan Upstate on YouTube. And Diesel put together this Mike Bothwell montage that is going on the YouTube screen right now. I'm looking at one, Mike, where you were diving on the floor. And I'll tell you, Mike, in that light, I'm going to mention something to you that I noticed during the SoCon tournament. I noticed nothing in the way of a bad attitude from anybody on the team. And in fairness, Mike, if I did, I wouldn't put you on the spot and mention it to you. But I noticed no bad attitude. I noticed no selfishness. I noticed 100% effort from everybody at all times. And I was really impressed by that. Like, look, man, we're human beings. We're prone to drama. And I just want to tell you, like, I don't know how you guys do that, but I saw none of it.
I appreciate that. And I think that's one of the biggest compliments I've always taken for myself and the teams I've been on. When people can see, like, our character and the way we play, that's better than any compliment about our athletic ability. And I think that's a testament to who we were before we got to college. You know, our parents, everyone on our team, our parents are the best. Like, there's no parent that is just, when they get around, it's like, oh, I don't know what they're like, or I don't really want to talk to them. Like, we have the greatest parents in the world, and they raised all of us young men like very well. And our coaches, honestly, are just another layer of that. It's a testament to them because this is the type of guys that they recruited, but we're all just come from great families, and that's just the type of thing that we care about more than anything, of our character and our approach. And Coach Richie makes sure he does a good job, just making sure and reminding us that we'll just control the things that we can control when we go out there and play, like not getting caught up into the externals, and because that can really shift your focus and shift your energy into not the right things. And we actually track like our good energy behaviors, and every week there's a winner of that. We call it the energy given behaviors, the EGBs, and every week there's an EGB winner on our team. So like that's something we really take pride in, just showing good character and showing good energy and not messing up the flow and the vibe of the team.
Mike, anybody that's watching us live on our YouTube channel right now will see over my left shoulder there is a poster. It says NCAA Radio with the Furman logo down in the bottom corner. It's when Furman hosted the NCAA tournament opening round a few years ago here at Greenville. Are you a souvenir guy when you get into a big game, when you get deep into a big tournament, when something special happens? Do you like lifting little souvenirs out of the locker room, or do you leave everything behind?
I'm 100% a souvenir guy. In my car, I have souvenirs from high school. It's just crazy. Like, that's something I think I got from my mom. I keep a lot of things for way too long. I don't want to call myself a hoarder, but I love to just have little mementos that remind me of places I've been and good times and good memories. Also, bad times, bad memories. Like, for example, like my screensaver for the past year has been the picture of me after the shot went in last year. And I think that's just another thing of how I am. Like, I like to remember good and bad times, and it just pushed me forward. So yeah, I definitely am a souvenir guy.
Take me down that a little bit farther, Mike. What kind of souvenirs have you kept? What's most special to you? And what's kind of that one thing you're like, why did I grab that? But at the same time, I can't get rid of it.
That's a hard question. It's a lot of things that I just keep. That's just small. I'm trying to think of a good example of one. Well, for like example, last year during the NCAA tournament in Greenville, I went to watch as a fan, and I kept that ticket that I got at all those games because I was like, one day next year we're going to be playing in this. So I was like, I want to keep this ticket to think about like the people that are going to be getting tickets to watch us play. So I think that's just an example of type things I do that, you know, that's a ticket that if I would have thrown away that day, I would have forgot about and never even thought about it. But just keeping that one thing around my apartment just reminds me every day that when I leave the house.
Mike Bothwell joining us, leading scorer of the Furman Paladins, with our March Madness Journal, as we are taking the journey along with him and bringing you guys along for the ride. Mike, I want to touch on something you just said. I don't think there's a lot of guys that would want to relive that memory of the shot going in last year that knocked you out of the NCAA tournament. What is it about who you are and your character that wants that as a constant memento, as a constant reminder? Because I'll tell you, Mike, it wasn't a good memory for me.
Well, I just believe that, like, bad times don't last forever. The sun shines in the morning. And, you know, one thing I remember just a Bible verse I read last year, just count it all joy. So, like, everything that happens to you, the trials and everything, there's a lesson that could come from it. And I've seen that in many of things I've seen in my life. And my mom has always, and my dad has always shown me situations of just how to, like, be resilient through things. And that's kind of how I looked at the shot last year. Coach Richie said it best. He said it's either going to be a stumbling block or a stepping stone. And ever since he said that, I told myself it was going to be a stepping stone that was going to propel this team further, but also me further in life, that if something that bad didn't happen, that I probably wouldn't be able to get to in life. So that's going to be something that even if I wanted to, I would never be able to forget. Even ESPN won't let me forget. They're still posting it, even though it was over a year ago. Like, so it might as well not try to forget it, but just try to make it a good thing and a positive thing. And so far, we've been doing a good job of that. But as I carry on in life, I think that's just a small little lesson that I'm gonna be able to keep forever. Just of a story of resiliency, a story of responses, and that's why I'm able to look at some of the bad things that's happened to me, because I just know that I'm gonna turn into a positive.
Mike Bothwell, senior guard, Furman Paladins. We were talking earlier on the show, Mike, about how it almost feels advantageous for college coaches to develop a really dynamite scheme, recruit 7, 8, 9 guys who can run that scheme on a deep bench. Talk about what the offense that Coach Bob Ritchie has implemented. And when you're out there getting into a game against kind of an unfamiliar opponent, when you can tell that this little thing you do is working, that you're going to be able to eat a team's lunch with it.
Yeah, I mean, his offense, the best way to describe it, that is a controlled Hooper's game. By that I mean there's a system and there's a pattern to everything we do, but he lets us make reads for ourselves. It's very frequent. He honestly is not a coach that calls a lot of sets, and even the sets that he do call is in our flow and our things that we do in our sleep. And it's not really like, okay, this guy's going to get the ball and this person does this and this. He doesn't really control us like that. He lets us play free within the system, so you don't really feel bogged down. And I definitely can tell the offense is flowing when we're getting a lot of passes side to side, making the defense move, because in that way we're getting a lot of cuts. And when guys are getting cuts, the next thing you know, guys are going to be getting open threes because people are going to be scared they're going to get back cut. And then now people are scared about the open threes, so they're staying attached to their man. So now the driving lanes are open. So whenever we're getting a lot of side-to-side movement and teams are having to figure that out, that's when I know it's going to be a high-scoring game for us.
Mike Bothwell, leading scorer of the Furman Paladins, joining us here for his March Madness Experience Tour that we're having with him here on the Fan Upstate. There's going to be a watch party at Furman on Sunday. Trying to figure out, trying to make plans, Mike, so we can be there and enjoy that experience with you guys. Where would you most like to play, Mike? Have you considered that question, realizing that they could send you anywhere?
For me, selfishly, I would like to play in Columbus, Ohio. That's about 2 hours from my hometown.
Yeah.
So even though it might be a little cold, I don't know what the forecast is for mid-March in Columbus. That would be amazing. I'm sure my whole school would take off school that day. My whole high school meaning would take off school that day and make the trip down. And we also have 2 other guys on the team from Ohio, so that would be huge for us. If not Ohio, I think it would be cool to play in either Orlando or Sacramento, just because, Florida, California, hard to beat those places. But for me,
there you go, man. I hope you get that opportunity. And Mike, can you bring us into just what it's been like on campus? What have you seen? What have you heard? What's that been like? Okay. A lot of excitement indeed. Well, Mike, if it's okay with you, our next time with you will be Monday at 3:40. And at that time, we'll be able to talk about your opponent. We'll be able to kick around who you're playing, where you're going, etc. Watch party at Furman. I believe that's open to the public, Mike. I think that's Sunday at 5 p.m. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that?
Sunday dinner, but it's definitely going to be something worth in a memory that'll last a lifetime, I believe.
There you go. In the words of one Mike Bothwell, leading scorer of the Furman Paladins, and going to be showing off his dance moves next week. Mike,
I'll be showing off those dance moves Sunday.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. I can't wait. I'll check it out, man. Mike, thanks so much for the time, man. Congratulations. Have a great week and a great weekend. All right.
Thank you. You guys take care.
All right, take care. Mike Bothwell. I'm telling you, Diesel, he's got some pro prospects and some pro potential. I've seen his name flickering on some of the NBA draft boards in terms of possibilities. He could be a guy that, makes a great living and plays professionally overseas, over in Europe. But a lot of times what will happen is those guys, there was a guy at Florida, Udonis Haslem, got a shot, played over in Europe, then had a 20-year career playing for the Miami Heat. And, you just need that one chance, that one opportunity. Mike Bothwell is an absolute baller.
And when he's done playing sports, man, he's got a career in broadcasting.
Yeah, he does.
God, he's good. Talking to him is like talking to when we'd have Darian Rencher on the show. Yeah. They have such a similar cadence, and you can hear the smile on their face and the intelligence. He's going to have a great career.
He's going to have an unbelievable career. All right, coming up next, what in sports makes you feel this way? We'll tackle that when Offsides continues right here on the Fan Upstate.
You got a live from Mr. Sparky.
Here to tell you about my friends at Mr. Sparky of the Upstate and the awesome job they're doing for you to make sure you guys everybody. This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Marc, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. Diesel, I am thrilled to have air, okay? We had a couple few days last week where we didn't have air. But is it just me, or does it seem like we are either on the sun or on the North Pole when it comes to the temperature?
Yeah, that's true. We're going to go from 80 to 50 in about a 10-day stretch. It's going to be a high of 50 on Sunday.
I'm talking about in the studio.
Oh, well, that's also true. Yeah, we're either in Hoth or Mordor. There's no middle ground.
It does. And look, guys, we're happy to have air. I don't want the powers that be listening to think we're not happy to have air.
Oh, we're grateful.
But very, very grateful to have air. But there's no, it doesn't seem to be like a happy medium. It's either we're on the sun or we're on the North Pole. One of the two. 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us on the show. Texter says, Mark, the state of South Carolina had 3 NCAA tournament teams in 2010. I'm going to be getting to this momentarily. Chris Miller is his Twitter bio says, son of the Most High, father to John Parker, 12-time South Carolina Sportscaster of the Year. He is the vice president of WHRI out of Rock Hill, South Carolina. He is a radio network host, and he wants to point out to me, and a point that I'm going to be making to you that, and guys, look, Diesel's not going to like this. You're not going to like this, perhaps. I don't consider teams to have made the tournament unless they get by the play-in game. I'm sorry. I don't consider that. I think it's awful what the NCAA does to you. I think that's awful.
It's crap that you did everything you were asked to do to get into this tournament. If you're in a one-bid league, you went and won your conference tournament. And then they say, well, yeah, but you're not really in the tournament because you're in a play-in.
I think that sucks.
You got to win one more. That's awful.
It's like, your parents ripping a present away from you moments before you open it. Has anyone ever had that happen to you?
They shouldn't be able to put a tournament champion in a play-in game. If you want those play-ins to be more at-larges, that's great. That's fine. I'm totally fine with that. You were selected as an at-large to get into this thing in the first place. Not you did everything we asked you to do, but it's still not good enough for us.
Yeah, I think it's trash, and I think it's garbage. And I don't like that I'm made out to be the bad guy, but the reality is, if you played in a play-in game and lost, I don't consider it a tournament berth. You weren't in the actual bracket when the bracket began. So it sucks, and I hate that they do that to you. And it absolutely should not happen to any tournament champions. Absolutely should not. 71307 on the text line is where you guys can get to us on the show. So, okay, I wanted to bring you guys into this. Fred VanVleet is a hell of a basketball player. He's, in my opinion, remember his days at Wichita State, right? He plays for the Toronto Raptors, and he is a really good player. Really, really good player. He is averaging this year 19 points a game, 7 assists, 4 rebounds. He's shooting 34% from 3, averaging 7 assists a game. Field goal percentage could be better, shooting 39% from the field. Fred VanVleet, last night, his Toronto Raptors, right, took it on the chin. His Toronto Raptors lost last night to the Clippers, 108-100. And Fred VanVleet decided in a calm voice, in a calm vibe, in a calm flow, decided to go nuclear on the officials last night. Now, I want to ask you guys this question, okay? What in sports leads you to this reaction? Okay, what in sports brings you to this level of disgust and distaste? 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us. Here's Fred VanVleet.
I mean, I don't mind. I'll take a fine. I don't really care. I thought, Ben Taylor was fucking terrible tonight. I thought that on most nights, a couple of the, out of the 3, there's 1 or 2 that just the game up, and it's been like that a couple games in a row. Denver was tough, obviously. You come out tonight, you're competing pretty hard. The third quarter, I get a bull tech, changes the whole dynamic of the game, changes the whole flow of the game. And, most of the refs are trying hard. I like a lot of the refs are trying hard. They're pretty fair. They communicate well. And then you got the other ones who just want to be and just kind of the game up. Nobody's coming to see that. They come to see the players. And I think we're losing a little bit of the fabric of what the NBA is and was. And it's been disappointing this season. You can look up most of my texts this year have been with Ben Taylor officiating. So at a certain point as a player, you feel it's personal. And it's never a good place to be. That's not why we lost tonight. We got outplayed. But it definitely makes it tougher to overcome.
Whoa. You don't know how nervous I was playing that audio.
Whoa.
It's like, how fast can I turn around and hit that dump button? Just in case I missed one, because there was a lot in there.
Whoa.
Who's got the dirtier mouth, Fred VanVleet or Kirby Smart?
Kirby. You know what? I'll tell you, Diesel. What's impressive about that to me is he doesn't raise his voice. He's as calm as can be. And how messed up is it that most of his technicals come from that guy? And he says that, is this proof that it's personal?
Yeah, where's the NBA studying this?
Yeah.
And saying maybe we shouldn't put this guy on these games anymore. Maybe we should pull him aside and talk to him. Maybe we should figure out why this is happening. And I'm sure that will happen now. I mean, Fred VanVleet's going to, take a big fine for saying this, but he might actually start a conversation that needs to happen in league offices.
Now, if you're the official, Diesel, you can say, well, is it something I have personally against him, or is he getting technicals because of something he has personally against me? And maybe the criteria for issuing a tech is like repeated dissent, ongoing dissent despite a warning, cursing, insults, you bleeping suck at your job, stuff like that, right? Maybe that's what it is. But folks, I heard that spiel from Fred VanVleet, and I was like, what's the fine on that going to be? Over or under $75,000, the fine from the NBA.
I think it's going to be 5 to 10 per bleep in that clip.
And there was a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot. So my question to you guys, 71307 on the text line, is as follows. What in sports gives you that reaction? What in sports leads you to that mindset, that reaction? What in sports pisses you off to the point where you're having a hard time saying words you can say on the air? Because Fred VanVleet had that moment last night. In case you missed it, here it is one more time.
I mean, I don't mind. I'll take a fine. I don't really care. I thought, Ben Taylor was fucking terrible tonight. I thought that on most nights, a couple of the, out of the three, there's one or two that just the game up, and it's been like that a couple games in a row. Denver was tough, obviously. You come out tonight, you're competing pretty hard. The third quarter, I get a bull tech, changes the whole dynamic of the game, changes the whole flow of the game. And, most of the refs are trying hard. I like a lot of the refs are trying hard. They're pretty fair. They communicate well. And then you got the other ones who just want to be and just kind of the game up. Nobody's coming to see that. They come to see the players. And I think we're losing a little bit of the fabric of what the NBA is and was. And it's been disappointing this season. You can look up most of my texts this year have been with Ben Taylor officiating. So at a certain point as a player, you feel it's personal. And it's never a good place to be. That's not why we lost tonight. We got outplayed. But it definitely makes it tougher to overcome.
Now, I'm going to ask you guys this question. We're going to play Guess How Well You Know the Hosts, okay? What do you think in sports leads me to have that reaction? Okay? You guys have listened to this show. You know who we are, what we're about. What gives me that reaction? Diesel, you know me. What gives me that reaction? And I'll answer it for you. When somebody says the group of five should have its own playoff, okay, this is Diesel's reaction.
I mean, I don't mind. I'll take a fine. I don't really care.
Ben
Taylor was fucking terrible tonight.
That's the reaction. When somebody says the group of five should have its own playoff, that is Diesel's reaction, right?
Most nights, out of the three, there's one or two that just the game up.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So, Diesel, what gives me that reaction in sports?
For you, that reaction comes from questioning the SEC, 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 you nerds that chant for your conference, even when you're not the ones actually winning anything.
That does bring it
damn
out.
sure nobody gonna come to our Thanksgiving table and say something about somebody's mama.
Right. You're right.
Nobody's
Listen.
coming to see that.
Oh, man. We're finding that there are drops in everything these days, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, what in sports leads you to that reaction? What in sports brings you to that level of anger? 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us. I've never heard a rant like that before. I've never heard a rant like that on an official. I've never heard a rant like that with somebody not yelling. I was fascinated by the entire thing. Fred VanVleet, Toronto Raptors. Raptors lose to the Clippers, 108-100. Coming up next on the show, everybody's got their list of the best coaches in college football, so I'll show you mine. If you show me yours. That, my friends, is on the flip side. Here on the show that gives you both sides. It's Offsides, Marc, Ryan, and Diesel. And we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides. Marc, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Rolling on a Friday Eve. Is it Friday Eve already, Diesel? Is this Thursday or Wednesday? This is Thursday? Real? Wow. This week is flying by. Absolutely, positively flying by. Great to have you guys with us, man. A little programming note. Have a show on CBS Sports Radio this Saturday from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So invite you guys to check that out. I know we've got a lot of tournament games, conference tournament games on the Fan Upstate here. If absolutely encourage you to check those out. If you want to hear the CBS show, you can download the Odyssey app, AUDACY, put in CBS Sports Radio, and I'll be right there from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time this coming Saturday. Getting ready for that, looking forward to that, excited about that, all of the above. So we've been asking you guys, what in sports gives you the reaction that Fred VanVleet came out with? You know, where he just was livid, explosion, like apoplectic at the result, man. Completely and totally apoplectic. Texter says, mine, what sends me to that place is all the Gamecock fans who want to talk junk after beating Clemson in football. Congratulations. You won a game by a point. Know your place. Clemson has beaten you all time, 72-42. They've got 7 wins in a row and 3 national championships. So go bleep yourself, you jabronis. That's what a Clemson fan has to say about that. That's what gets him going. What makes you have that Fred VanVleet reaction? 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us. Where do you guys come out on my feeling that if you make a play-in game, but you lose the play-in game, you didn't make the tournament? Like, where do you come out on that? I think it's a crime that they would ever have a conference champion, somebody who won their conference tournament championship, playing in a play-in game. Now, if you're asking me what would I rather have, I'll give you a 1, 2, 3. My first choice is to make the actual tournament. Second choice is to lose the play-in game. Third choice is to win the NIT. I would rather lose the play-in game than win the NIT, because at least then the history books and the record books will say that we made the tournament, even though my own self-admitted policy is you really didn't. You know, if you didn't win the play-in game, if you weren't in the bracket, right, without a slash next to your name, did you really make the tournament? That's my feeling about that. So, that's right. Don't forget it. Nobody's coming to see that. So Brad Crawford the other day came out with his list of the top 35 coaches in America. Top 35 coaches in America. Now, I'm not going to bore you by going through each and every one by one, but I do think some of these are interesting, and those I will share with you, and then I will share with you my top 10 coaches in college football today. He's got Billy Napier, number 30. He says Napier's first season at Florida didn't go as planned, but he's 46-19 as a head coach, including his tenure at Louisiana. He's an ace recruiter, too. Billy Napier's second season at Florida isn't going to go as planned, and I don't really think it's his fault. Let's see here. Remember when Matt Campbell at Iowa State was everybody's flavor of the month? He's number 29 right now. He says Chip Kelly is number 26, and Steve Sarkisian is number 25. Is it just Steve? Like, where are the results for Steve Sarkisian as a head coach?
He's got a great name. He's got one of those great names that
everybody talks about. Somehow he just keeps ending up in circles and in conversations.
Right.
Anytime, like, people forget. They get a little slap happy when it comes to coaching searches. They start just like JoJo, the Indian circus boy with a pretty new pet, and all of the options and all the. Well, this guy was at this school, so he must be good. Well, he kind of stunk over there, but then he got a job over here. Well, he kind of stunk over there, but there's a reason he keeps getting those jobs. No, like, go by the results, not by the potential.
So you guys know like our rules for coaches, right? Like our standards for coaches. Coaches with an 800 winning percentage are the elite class of coach. Coaches with a 700 winning percentage are good. If you have below a 700 winning percentage, Dan Mullen at Florida was 696, you're asking to be fired. Okay? Steve Sarkisian's career winning percentage, Washington, USC, and Texas, is 556. He is 59-47. What have you seen that justifies Brad Crawford putting Steve Sarkisian into the top 25? And now here's where it gets interesting. Shane Beamer, number 24. Here's Brad Crawford's description. Beamer cashed in during year 2 with the Gamecocks after ending the regular season with back-to-back wins over top 10 competition for the first time in program history. South Carolina snapped Clemson's 40-game home winning streak in the finale and scored 63 points during a victory over Tennessee, the most ever by an unranked team against a top 5 opponent. His star is rising. No dispute from me. No dispute from me whatsoever. Shane Beamer in the top 25. He's got Mac Brown, number 24. Florida State coach Mike Norvell, number 21. Continuing to find interesting names for you. Chris Kleeman, Kansas State, 18. Willie Fritz from Tulane, number 16. And now let's get to Brad Crawford's top 10, after which point I will share with you my own top 10. Number 10, Josh Heupel, Tennessee. I don't get it, Brad. I don't get it. One good year. You have Steve Sarkisian in your top 25 after no good years. You have Josh Heupel in your top 10 for 1 year. That's all it takes. He's got Luke Fickell, number 9. Fickell was a little fickle with Cincinnati, don't you think? No? Yes? Kyle Whittingham, number 8, Utah. He's got Lincoln Riley, number 7. Number 6 is Ryan Day. Top 5, number 5 is Brian Kelly. 4 is Dabo. 4 is Dabo. Dabo was 1 or 2 all these years. 3 is Jim Harbaugh. 2 is Nick Saban. And 1 is Kirby Smart. Brad Crawford's top 35 coaches in college football today. So in the effort of time and the effort of your interest, what I did is put together just my top 10, my current top 10. Shane Beamer is climbing. I wouldn't have him in my top 10 yet. If Shane Beamer finishes in the top 10 or 15 this year, that's a different argument. Okay? I, too, would have Shane Beamer ahead of Billy Napier, even though Napier beats Shane Beamer this year. I'd have him ahead of Billy Napier. So anyway, without further ado, here is my top 10. Number 10 for me is Lane Kiffin. Brad Crawford has Lane Kiffin number 13. I think that's too low. Lane Kiffin is winning at a place not accustomed to winning. All right? Ole Miss was 7-0 last year. He's now 23-13, and they're getting better every single year. They're electric on offense, and they have the feel of one of those teams that can beat anybody on any given day. You hire Lane Kiffin, and you are relevant. Number 9 for me is Kyle Whittingham. Let's see. Brad Crawford has Kyle Whittingham number 8. I have Whittingham number 9. Whittingham is a pro's pro whose team plays incredibly hard for him. They're so darn fundamentally sound, and they never beat themselves. They never beat themselves. They beat USC twice. All right? But look, 154-74 at Utah, not overly easy to win there. Navigated the stretch, the move to the Pac-12, built the depth, and now they're the best darn program in the Pac-12. Kyle Whittingham for me is number 9. I've got Ryan Day, number 8. Ryan Day has got to get over the hump. He does. He's won the Big Ten. He's made the college football playoff. He's made it to the national championship game. But ultimately, the expectation is to win the national championship. And now they've lost 2 games in a row to Michigan. Ryan Day is young. Ryan Day is growing. Ryan Day is showing himself not to be Urban Meyer's equal. Ryan Day I have at number 8. I've got Brian Kelly, number 7. Why did Brian Kelly move from Notre Dame to LSU? Because he wanted to go to a chance where he could win it all. Didn't feel like you can do that at Notre Dame. Do you guys believe a national championship can be won in this era at Notre Dame? Yay or nay? How would you answer that? I got Brian Kelly, number 7 on the list. Impressive first year for Brian Kelly at LSU.
Well, they're going to have to hire the dean of students from the University of North Carolina, who was there during all those 30 years of systematic academic fraud. You know, he'd bring in some of those underwater basket weaving classes that they had up there at Chapel Hill, and you can get some more talented wide receivers up there in South Bend. Otherwise, they're not going to make the grades.
Texter says, Mark, on the subject of what sends me over the edge in sports, watching Cam Newton overthrow passes that should have been simple completions sends me over the edge every time. I hear you, buddy. I hear you. Number 6 best coach in America to me. Brad Crawford has him way too low. Sonny Dykes. Are you kidding me? They were predicted to be middle of the pack in the Big 12. They made it to the national championship game. Brad Crawford says he's number 12. I say he's number 6. You do that at TCU, you've got my attention. Number 5, I will say, is Lincoln Riley. And you might have a point if you say, Mark, a ton of hype on Lincoln Riley. Not massive production. Well, they have made the college football playoff. They have been relevant. USC was much better than expected, much earlier than expected next year. I've got Lincoln Riley 5. I've got Jim Harbaugh 4. I was a couple years ago, folks, I thought Jim Harbaugh was an old school coach in a new school era, and I wasn't sure it would work. But the old school coach in a new school era that can't get hired for an NFL job is working beautifully. Somehow he's connecting with his players through all that intensity. Somehow in the NIL era, he's recruiting very well, right? And he's made the college football playoff now 2 years in a row and beaten Ohio State 2 years in a row and won the Big Ten 2 years in a row. Number 3 for me is Dabo Swinney. I don't know that many Clemson fans are going to argue that. Sustained success with a little bit of a blip the last couple of years. And then you have the debate on 1 and 2. And I'm still going Saban 1, Diesel, although it's very close. Kirby Smart, back-to-back national champions. In order for me to allow you to supplant Nick Saban, I just need more sustained results than 2 years. I got to see it for more than over 2 years. And so I got Saban 1, Kirby Smart 2. I've got Swinney 3, Harbaugh 4, Lincoln Riley 5, Sonny Dykes 6, Brian Kelly 7, number 8 is Ryan Day, 9 is Kyle Whittingham, and 10 is Lane Kiffin. Now, who did not make my top 10? Luke Fickell did not make my top 10. Josh Heupel, 1 good year, did not make my top 10. Neither did James Franklin at Penn State, Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, Mark Stoops at Kentucky. I got a close eye on Willie Fritz at Tulane. Close eye on Willie Fritz. Kalen DeBoer at Washington and Chris Kleeman at Kansas State. I love what they are doing. Love what they're building. Close eye on Shane Beamer as well. But anyway, folks, there is my top 10 overall coaches in college football today. Diesel, Kirby Smart, Nick Saban debates. Number 1, number 2.
It's not even a debate. Nick Saban has 6 titles at Alabama. Kirby has 2. Which one's the bigger number? And
Right.
Nick Saban has proven even in his worst season, he's right there in the conversation. So, look, these dopes, these numbskulls, these knuckle draggers down in South Georgia, who are like, man, Kirby's better than Nick Saban. No, he's not. No, he's not. You got to do it more than twice.
Well,
He's right there behind him, nipping at his heels. Give him all the credit in the world. He is gaining fast.
I feel like Kirby Smart is kind of Nick Saban, isn't he? Like personality-wise, I feel like they're the exact same dude. So Brad Crawford had Kirby Smart 1, Saban 2, Diesel and I have Saban 1, Kirby Smart 2. Diesel, he has Harbaugh 3 and Dabo 4. I have Dabo 3 and Harbaugh 4. Who wins that debate?
Well, it's Dabo because he's got the titles. Now, again, this is a situation where Jim Harbaugh, in my mind, could easily and rather quickly overtake Dabo Swinney. But he's got to have some hardware, man. Like, what world are we living in where we're saying a guy who hadn't won a damn thing, who's gotten close to the top of the mountain but turned around and stumbled down, is better than somebody that's gotten to the mountaintop multiple times? Like, what world are we talking about here?
71307 on the text line is where you guys can get to us. Coming up next on the show, Clemson is playing for something much bigger than itself in the NCAA tournament. And I'll tell you why next. Right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Marc, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Marc, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Yeah, there's a debate here. A couple of texters are saying,
Mark, how many titles did Kirby have when he was with Saban?
And then a texter above said, answer the question. You guys are answering the questions here for us. Fantastic. Texter says Kirby was with Saban on 4 of Alabama's national titles. Well, did he help the cause? Yeah. But an assistant coach doesn't get credit for a national championship the way a head coach does. Right? Just doesn't happen. Doesn't work that way. Are you guys saying that you would have Kirby number 1 and Saban number 2? I don't know. Like for Diesel and I, you gotta. I don't know. It doesn't have to be a national championship contest, right? Whoever has the most wins. But at the same time, like unless Nick Saban totally falls off, I need more than just 2 years from Kirby's plan, right? Gotta have that, man. They got the grumpiness in common. You know, they've got the intimidation factor in common. Texter says Saban won a title at LSU first, so he's done it at 2 schools. He said Satan is on top. Texter says, yeah, I wouldn't have Kirby Smart ahead of Nick Saban yet either. Where do you guys come out on Harbaugh versus Dabo? I was surprised Brad Crawford had Harbaugh ahead of Dabo. Now, Brad is a South Carolina fan. So Beamer at 24 seemed reasonable to me. Maybe others would have Beamer a little lower. I'm not sure. But Dabo below Harbaugh, without Harbaugh having a national title, is a little curious for me. I don't know. Harbaugh has made it to the playoffs twice and was a big favorite this year. And they lost. You know, and like Diesel, in a sense, the way that Michigan crapped the bed robbed us of having a halfway decent national championship.
They lost to the team that everybody said didn't even belong in the 14 playoff. So how good really was that Michigan team?
Yeah. How bad does that look for Michigan that they lost to that team, right? So anyway, guys, I want to share this with you. I went back and I tracked today. I tracked all of the tournament berths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Sorry about that. Not great radio, but I went back and I tracked the tournament berths from the Palmetto State the last 15 years. Okay. 9 out of the last 15 years. Okay. 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We had a good stretch from like 2008 to 2011. 9 of the last 15 years, we have had 2 teams in the tournament. 1, 2, twice in the last 15 years, we've had 1 team in the tournament, right? And then 4 times in the last 15 years, we've had no teams make the tournament. That's an abomination. That is an embarrassment for all. But I said the tease to this segment was that Clemson has a chance this year to do something in the ACC tournament that, you know, they're playing for something much bigger than themselves. Clemson, with an ACC tournament win or an NCAA tournament berth, could get 3 teams from the state of South Carolina into the tournament for the first time this century. First time this century. Now, this is where I had my guy, let's see here, Chris Miller, come at me a little bit, and it's okay. It's all good. He said, Mark, in 2010, Clemson, Winthrop, and Wofford all made the tournaments. And I went back and I brought up the tournament brackets, and Winthrop wasn't in there. Why wasn't Winthrop in there? Well, they lost to the play-in game, okay? And so I said to Chris, I said the following, and Chris is a media guy, 12-time South Carolina Sportscaster of the Year. I said, Chris, I've never considered the play-in games to be making the tournaments. You're in the tournament if you win the play-in game. It's my own definition, admittedly. He says, gotcha. As a Winthrop alum, we certainly have that as an NCAA berth. Banner in the Coliseum. NCAA calls it opening round. But your tweet, your rules. hopefully the Tigers can take care of business and get that third team in.
I don't understand these Clemson fans and their circular logic. We have this podcast up on Facebook, the first segment of the show about Graham Neff having a big decision to make on Brad Brunell this offseason. Stephen Bowers, he's up for Coach of the Year, third in the ACC at 14-6 and won 22 games. Stop. This ain't the year, as in this ain't the year to fire him. To which I said, this mindset is why Clemson basketball will never achieve greatness. Fans are too willing to reward a career of mediocrity with an extension after one good season. And he says, I never said anything about an extension. I've been saying they need to change for years, but your timing is bad and just weird to say this is the year they need to fire him when they've had one of their better years. It's been a good year. It's not the year to fire him. If he can't sustain and build on it, then you fire him. I'm not saying he needs a lifetime contract either. Steven, you're going in every direction all at the same time. He's good. He's bad. We should keep him, but not let him have too much leeway. What? Make a decision, Steven. Have some convictions in what you think here. Sharon McDonald says, but I thought they were doing better than usual. Well, better than usual when your usual is meh isn't really saying that much. Randy Ball says, move on from him. It's time.
Diesel, can we post a poll on that? So, like, now's the time to do it, right? Now's the time to do it because they're about to embark on the ACC tournament. So, if you're a Clemson fan, are you moving on from Brad Brunell no matter what? Are you keeping him if he gets a tournament berth? And, we got 4 choices, Diesel. We got 4 choices. So, moving on from him no matter what. Moving on from him only if he misses the tournament. Keeping him if he makes the tournament. Or keeping him no matter what, right? The folks who say keep him no matter what, those are the people I don't understand. Those are the ones I don't understand. So anyway, my friends, look, never this century has the state of South Carolina produced 3 tournament teams in the same year. From 2008 to 2023, here are the numbers. 2-1-2-2-0-0, 2-2-0, 2-2-1-2-0-2. Okay? We've not had 3 teams in. So Clemson gets in. Clemson beats NC State, and then the winner of North Carolina or Virginia gets to the final. Maybe that's good enough. The state of South Carolina gets 3 teams in the tournament. How amazing would that be, man? How freaking amazing would that be? So what do you guys say? Your votes, welcome. Your votes, appreciated. I think it's do or die time. And I simply ask Graham Neff to honor his word. He said Clemson needs to make the tournament this year. You know, there is a committee for this. And I understand that Clemson fans are bent at what seems like on the outside looking in, a double standard, right? After all, as you look at the lay of the land here, Mississippi State might get into the tournament. They were 8-10 in the SEC. A Pitt team that has the same record as Clemson and is getting blown out by Duke is considered a lock. A Clemson team that won at Pitt, at NC State, and when it's only meeting against Duke is out. That was put together by Matt Connolly. Make it make sense. Well, because Clemson's not in the top 25, the ACC is down, and Clemson has more bad losses than just about any other tournament team. You know, compare the bad losses Clemson has. Loyola of Chicago, South Carolina, right? Compare them to other tournament teams. It's not a good look. Not a good look. I think they've got to win this thing in order to get in. We've got the top 5 at 5 coming your way next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Marc, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan of State.
Listen on your phone. Download the Odyssey app and search Upstate.
The Dens are dancing. Hey, everybody, Dan Scott here. Your Furman men's basketball team are SoCon champs and will head to the NCAA